we're so numb to see all this content constantly, right? And there's so many incredibly talented people out there, right? But you're skipping through it because you're annoyed by the same audio and song that everyone uses. So in reality, though your content might be getting pushed, I'm not even watching it because I can't stand to hear it. Right. So it's like, wow, the thing that got you into this like viral mode is now getting you out of it just as quick. Cause I've already heard that a million times and it's just not inspiring to me. So it's a catch-22. Like I said, man, you can't hate the player, hate the game. And if you don't want to play the game, don't complain about the game. Don't complain about making reels and videos and keeping up. If you don't want to play it, just don't.
Good morning. My name is Steven Borelli, and you are tuned into the Sport of Business podcast. A few years ago, I started my business, Cuts Clothing, from my parents' basement in Washington. Leading a startup has its perks. One of them is connecting with like-minded individuals. On this podcast, you'll hear from some of the people I've gotten close with along the way. Get their takes on trends, business, and current events. And for future founders out there, hopefully you'll take something home that you can apply to your brand. This is the Sport of Business. Let's dive in. Awesome. Welcome to the Sport of Business, episode 7, with a very special guest and a friend of mine, Garrett King, aka Shortstache. How we doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's funny. Some people don't even know my real name, so I appreciate the introduction. Some people only know me as Shortstache. So, but yeah, that's my name is Garrett, and I'm really pumped to kind of be on this show with you guys and dive into whatever we're going to get into.
Love it. So yeah, let's start off of just where did the name Shortstache come from, and what does it mean, and how does it integrate into your story?
Sure. So I had a mustache growing contest with a buddy, probably, I guess, around 12 years ago. So my first passion was design. Okay. And so from there, I was like art director, designer, web designer, print media, whatever that looks like, back in Amarillo, Texas, where I'm from. So I was there, and at the time there were some really awesome dudes that we knew about that were shooting short films about people around Texas, doing stuff like that. And good friends of ours. And we just kind of were trying to figure out, all right, so how do we play a part in this? Are we designing their website? Are we just tagging along? Are we shooting B-roll? What are we doing? So anyway, it was just like, that was kind of going on. And we were also having a mustache growing contest. And I just thought Shortstache could be some type of thing, right? Didn't know what it was, but I bought shortstache.com probably 12 years ago. And then when I got on Instagram, I just put Shortstache as a username. I didn't think it was like, your identity at the time or what that would become. And then it just developed into this like branded figure for so long, and then an actual brand. And then I trademarked it. And so now it's just, it's like a part of who I am. So in a nutshell,
how, like usernames are, I think it's a big deal of how you brand yourself. And obviously Shortstache, I think, is unique enough where people remember it, they remember you by it. And it's become something that there wasn't a cognitive thought of what it was before you were able to create that image. And so I think that's incredible. What do you think a lot of creators are fans of Cuts, and, we represent the Sport of Business, and part of operating the Sport of Business is creating your own type of job that didn't exist before. That's very similar to how your career is. 10, 20 years ago, to have a full-time career like what you do now would be, almost unthinkable. So how do you go about being a content creator, or, and like, how do you gain traction in that field?
Sure. Man, just to even start off. So I guess we can kind of position that question as like, are you talking about maybe somebody who's starting right now who wants to maybe dive into that
exactly
as like a career? Okay. Because for me, man, it came alongside, it was something that I was doing on the side, right? I shot with my iPhone for years, and I was a full-time designer at the time. And so when it was, just for fun for so many years, but then it turned into this like career that I decided to just quit my job and pursue. All the while social media was building on its own. Like that was never like my forefront plan to be like, I'm going to be a content creator. It's like, I'm going to be a craftsman at whatever I do, and I'm going to try to master whatever that is. And I'm going to pioneer a path for myself, for others, So I think in this day and age, so many people get caught up and scared to approach something that's so heavily saturated, right? So everyone's a photographer. I mean, you can take great photos with your phone. You can take great videos with your phone. I mean, it's crazy what you can do now, but it's about having this specific vision and the understanding on what story you're wanting to tell. There's going to be an emphasis on who you are as a person, as a creator, what's going to, set you apart in your, both your heart and your mind and your craft. What does this look like? What does, branding yourself look like? So starting out today, I would assume that some people just get so turned off at the fact that like, well, everyone does it. How do I fit in? How do I separate myself? And honestly, you can't worry about what everyone else is doing. You got to just get better each and every day at what you're doing and pursue it for the right reasons. If you just want to like be your own boss, make money, some people are in it for travel. It can be different for someone's intentions. I was in it because I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved meeting the people. I loved creating the art. I loved everything about it. And so it was just so important for me to be fulfilled in anything that I was doing and understanding that that was the sole purpose. It wasn't about getting money. Money was a necessity for me to be able to like do what I do, but it wasn't everything. And I was never comparing myself to other people. It was just about learning and growing as I went. So I think staying truly authentic to yourself, staying genuine, being very cohesive in everything that you do, have a passion for yourself to dig into, this deeper being and like artist and whatever that looks like. So I think it's just understanding your purpose and then pursuing it accordingly.
Yeah. And I think the underlying thing that you mentioned is just authenticity.
Yeah.
You being yourself was the compelling offer that the marketplace needed. And because you're one of one, that's something that was scalable. And I think a lot of times people forget that. Like if you're yourself and you are a one of one, you can oftentimes scale that because there's nothing on planet Earth like you. And I think you're an example of that. What's your creative process like? I love asking this question as a founder too, because, I see myself oftentimes as an artist as well, where we're creating a specific type of shirt for a specific type of audience that hasn't been done before. So what's your creative process like?
Yeah, I think it just differs on whatever I'm trying to approach. For me, I think, especially in the last few years, I've really started honing in on what that approach looks like for me, how different it is, how I can be different, how I can also approach something differently. And again, it speaks back to fulfillment. So if I'm going to create something, it needs to be seen that it's like, okay, this is a story this dude is telling. And I can feel that through pictures, through motion, through video. And so it's having the right idea, then figuring out the right approach. And then how do you execute that all around, whether that's like including the right people, understanding the right environment, having the right models in it or yourself or whatever that looks like. And then of course, wrapping it up in this package of like color is so important to me. So it's like the depth and color. How am I going to set the scene? How is this going to be like a certain mood or ethereal experience for someone who's diving into a project and sees that like my passion went into this. So I think it's just understanding the story blocks for yourself of like, what's my framework look like? Is my foundation good? Is this just a one-off thing? Is this going to be a series of something? But for me, it has to be a specific purpose for what I'm creating. Otherwise, I feel like you kind of get lost and don't really know exactly what you're doing. Doesn't mean you can't create something good. It's just, once you have a certain plan, and though it doesn't always go to plan, you can riff off of that, understanding that you have a good foundation and just go from there. And it goes from being good to great.
Mm-hmm. Internally, we always talk about what's our brand positioning and not to get distracted, because if we try to do too many things, then in the marketplace, we're just going to be nothing. When someone jumps on your profile, you've done such a good job with identifying your mood and color. How did that come to be? And how are you able to go in any setting, but maintain that brand positioning for your profile?
Sure. So it's funny, like everyone that knows me and like my close buddies, it's, and coming from Amarillo, Texas, like it's just funny. It's hard to like relate to that now, but I have such a aesthetically pleasing thing about what I see, what I do, what I like wear, how I like decorate things, how things are shaped in my life. Visually, I feel like if there's something that's going to be around me, if I have control, I want it to be aesthetically and like cohesively me, right? So I have that control and that choice. So in my art, it's like, well, if there's something that's really drawn to me, I need to have a level of consistency, the certain colors I like, the certain hues I like, the certain like depth I like, whatever that looks like. It's understanding that if that's speaking to me and staying true to myself, and I know that will obviously translate in my work. So when I was building out a certain style, I felt like everyone back in the day on their iPhone started with VSCO. So some people say Visco or whatever, but it's Visual Supply Company. That was a big thing back in the day. And so kind of rooted from there, just understanding like color theory. I studied color theory in college, and then also just read a lot of books growing up. And then of course, just design influence with shapes, colors, complementary stuff, secondary stuff. That was really important to me. And I think just translating that and understanding what deep undertones do, what atmospheric tones do, stuff like that speak to me as just an artist. And so when I was developing my style has changed from when I started like 7 or 8 years ago till now. It's just gradually happened. And I think what allowed me to, like you said, how do you keep that same consistent style in your work today? Well, I moved around a lot. Like I moved from Texas, then I lived in Colorado, then I lived in Washington, and then I started traveling a ton all over the world. And to me, it was like, there's certain artists I see who are only good from the outside. Like they're only good in a specific environment, right? They know how to edit and color and shoot in a specific scenery, right? So they're only good in like mountains. So they're only good in like rainy seasons. Like that's kind of their thing. But to me, you're a very one-dimensional artist, and it's up to that person to be like, okay, how do I get outside the box? How do I really scare myself in understanding how to edit outside of this like place I live? So when I was traveling, man, and I live in Colorado and in Washington and blah, 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 I felt like I always got dealt shorthanded on the cards where the weather was always bad. I didn't have golden light. I didn't have all these like epic scenes that were supposed to come to life. And so I learned to just like edit in that style and what spoke to me, and to like deepenly like rich and or have these colors a lot more deep and rich than, than the human eye would basically see it. So it's like developing that style with conditions, then in lighting, then traveling, and understanding that there has to be a foundation for your work. And then it just kind of translates all over the board. But the more challenges I put inside or in front of myself, it was like harsh daylight, early morning, blue hour, no light, rain, snow, fog, whatever that looks like, people, places, streets, sports, anything. It was like, how can I become such a well-rounded person that I know that my style will translate no matter where I go? So that was just a challenge for myself. And I think it just evolved over the years.
Yeah, I'm from Wenatchee, Washington, up in the Pacific Northwest, the PNW. So
that place is sick.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that. And it's just so cool how I can, as I'm talking to you, I can see that where you're from has really translated to your work. And it's very impressive how you've been able to, wherever you go. I'm big in consistency, and it's just so consistent. And I think oftentimes people can think it can be boring being consistent, but the consumers don't look at it that way. They see a million stuff all day. And if things aren't consistent, then it just kind of, they'll forget about it. So that's amazing. When did you get into educational online courses, and, how did you make that a profession? And, I think so there's so many opportunities in life right now with, NFTs or, being a solopreneur, which I was for a long time, for about 3 years before we started bringing on a team. And it was the dream originally, just to be able to be at a WeWork by myself. And I think so many people want that. But, there is more competition now, and it is getting a little bit harder. How would you go about, getting into online courses if someone's listening that has a specific skill set?
Sure, man. I think so. I got into it because I felt like the first thing I ever released was essentially the foundation of editing. Like I released this course called the Base Sets. And what it was is everyone was releasing all these presets. This is right when COVID hit. Okay. And I had bought in so many presets throughout my life to just see, the settings and the tools and stuff people were using and how abstractly different they were, how they approach something, because the beauty of editing is so many people can come from all different directions and get to a very similar, if not the same area, with all the same tools, which is pretty crazy. So for me, I was like, it was like just research for me to understanding how people did this. I was like, that's really interesting. Like their S curve looks like this, or like their U curve is like this. And so when I released something, I was like, you know what though? If I'm ever going to release something, I want to actually teach somebody something. And it's not just this one-off cash grab, right? Because I've seen presets, people are always like, yeah, that his work looks nothing like that, or her work looks nothing like what she sells. And it's like, I wanted people to understand that there's a foundation that you can learn. It's like, this is like the base of what I use, and I develop my own style from here. These are tailored colors that I use. This is the skin value stuff that I use. And it allows people to actually learn something. And then you take that foundation and make your own. That's the whole beauty, is having your own. You don't want to replicate somebody. I think well-established and mature thinkers and artists know that you don't want to have a rip off of someone's style. You want to have inspiration, and then you find your signature, right? So that was really important to me. And I loved doing that and having that. So I made an editing one. Then I made actually an in the field one on how to physically shoot. And it's like the storytelling aspect of setting up scenes and lenses and blah, blah, blah. Then I did another video course. And anyway, all of that to say is I think it was fulfilling for me to at least do it and know that for the right people and the people that actually want to invest in themselves, they will appreciate it. Those that just want this like overnight success, one click, how do you do this? How do I get rich? It's not for them. It's not for those people. So when you ask, how does someone get into these courses? You got to understand that everyone just wants that overnight success and that one click, one button that makes your edit sick, one button that makes your video all of a sudden incredible, as if sound design, color, and everything comes in one click, right? That's what everybody wants. And you have to get that out of your head, that that's actually going to be the people you're selling to. You're selling for people who want to invest in themselves. And you got to understand that not everyone's going to want to do that. And you have to put it at a price point that some people or most people could afford in hopes to reach more people, right? So it's a tough gamble, man. Some people have really big cult followings that buy everything they have. Some people have big cult followings that don't necessarily buy everything they have. But I think truly, as it all resorts back to staying authentic to yourself, you create because you love it. And if you really want to reach people and really dive into your craft and teach people that, the real ones will appreciate it and they'll buy it. And I think it's just understanding your intentions behind it. If it's to be a quick cash grab, I would say don't put any effort into it, because just give them the bare minimum, because essentially people just only want one thing. But for me, it was like, if I'm going to release anything Shortstache related, it's going to be dialed. It's going to be colored well. The audio is going to sound nice. The production is going to be good, because that's a certain specific standard and a level of standard that I hold myself to. When something comes out from me, people know I'm not playing around. It was really thought out and it's going to be sick. So that's just how I release stuff and how I've wanted to.
There's so many similarities between your approach and our approach at Cuts. I mean, we have a ton of products that we don't put out that just don't pass our level of premiumness. And I always tell the team, we don't need to come out with anything. There's so many brands out there now. And, if we're doing a short, it's got to be the best. And there's a saying, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. It's an old basketball saying I did in high school, but it's so true. Like in the playoffs, if you want to make it to the championship, you got to go through the best eventually. So, and the same is with, clothing, we believe is a customer could choose, Cuts, or they can choose another brand. So if we're going to put something out to our community, is this better than, this other brand? And if it's not, let's stop, let's wait, let's assess, and let's give it another go and figure out a way to make it better. And that's 100%. Really, been something that has led us to having success. Where, now that COVID's over, I know you're probably, I know I've seen you've recently traveled, but now that you're kind of, the floodgates have opened again, is there anywhere you're excited to go?
Man, it's funny that you say that. Like I traveled for so many years, like 5 years straight, where some years were like 35 flights, some were 52 flights, just like ridiculous. And it all became such a blur. And honestly, it took a huge toll on my health, like physically, mentally, emotionally. Like I had bad diet, had no exercise, no sleep. You just run yourself into the ground. And I quickly realized from getting sick, it was just like, this isn't the life for me. And this isn't the life I want. I crave routine. I crave like going to the gym, cooking my meals, walking my dog, having quiet time. Like it's just, I crave a normalcy while still being able to like have flexibility. And I know that's so backwards for some people that are like, oh man, I just want to travel and have no schedule and blah, blah, blah. But anything um, like I just, you have to be moderate in everything that you're doing and just understand that it has to be regulated. So for me, travel right now, my dog's gotten a lot older and I love to spend time with her at home because she can't travel with me like she used to. So I enjoy like being at home, meeting up with friends, all that good stuff. But then if I do travel, it's got to be very intentional. Where am I going? Why am I going? How long am I going? And can I get the most out of this? Is it strictly vacation? Okay, cool. I'm not bringing any work. If it is a job, how do we execute it? Is this the best position? Is this the best time? Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I recently just got back from a trip to Tofino Island in Vancouver, man. And it was me and 10 other people. It was so sick. Like we had no, like we shot for fun. We didn't shoot. We just hung out. Like I met a couple guys up there that I had never met before. Some from Finland, some from Toronto. Anybody in Canada, dude, is just like the realest people ever. They're such nice people. So shout out to every Canadian I've ever met is just like genuine human beings. And so I really appreciate that. But yeah, besides that trip, man, I think the next big one is going to be in Norway at the end of August, early September. Dude, it's just unmatched. And
the weather's like going into winter, right?
So you'll kind of have 24-hour sun out there. Well, you'll have like 18-hour sun out there during that time because it's like cooling off of summer, but also, yeah, it's just kind of like teeter-tottering on the edge where you have golden hour for like 3 or 4 hours, which is epic. So going out there, man, is basically this reunion trip. Norway was the first country I ever visited that I quit my job for. So 7 years ago, I quit my job and never looked back. And I knew that it was sink or swim. And I'm going to pursue this photography thing full time. I'm going to leverage like brands that I already know, relationships I already have. And I'm just going to absolutely go after it, pioneer my own path, kill it, set an example for myself, for others, and just get after it. So that trip was very special to me. And I want to go back with all the knowledge I have now, the skill. And honestly, the story I just told you is the story I'm going to film and tell out there.
That's amazing. What, I always ask, what hotel are you staying at?
So, yeah. So, dude, it's so funny you say that. Like I've camped so much in my life, right? And I feel like as you get older, I'm just like, dude, where's the hotel at? Where's this bougie hotel at? Where's the spa at? I'm not trying to sleep on the ground. You know, I can do that far and few between, but dude, when you have a couple like terrible nights of sleep and just no energy, I'm good. So that I don't know, just because where we're going up in the north to Lofoten Islands around like Tromsø, Sinja, and these areas, it's tiny towns of just like cabins and stuff like that. So we'll probably just be staying in cabins. First night we'll stay in Oslo, which will be a pretty dope spot. We'll find a cool hotel. And then last night in Oslo as well. But up north, there's not much to choose from. It's just pure serenity. And you're just chilling, man, and taking in the views and hiking and just like this beautiful reset. So
gonna be fun.
Yeah, it'll be really sweet, man. So I'm stoked to get back there and give it a go.
What do you think is changing most about the social media landscape right now for guys like you? You know, I know we're dealing with, you know, moving more of our approach to TikTok,
sure.
But it's a little bit difficult because our brand inherently isn't like a funny brand or
sure.
You know, so we're more doing it around like the self-help aspect, and that's been our approach and what we've seen to have success. But I'm curious from your angle, like, how do you use these new emerging platforms to gain traction and grow your business?
Sure, man. I wish I was a better example for that question. Like I love TikTok for a lot of reasons. I'm not really on it per se for myself. I'm on it. I see like workouts, recipes, design inspo stuff, funny stuff. And it's tough for me because though maybe I will start creating stuff, but it's just one more thing that I'm on my phone for. It's one more thing that like is taking me away from real life. And I already have that enough with like YouTube and Instagram and whatever. So for me, man, I know that stuff is moving into video, but it's moving into like mediocrity video, right? Which is so bizarre. People just put up this like raw organic feel, and I can really appreciate that. But it's so nuts that companies are paying for like the bare minimum. And it's like, it as an artist, that's such a bizarre feeling to see. And that will never be me. That just is not me. So
I love that.
It's just, it can't be me. And I'm not going to succumb to making like very subpar stuff. And I've said this to a lot of people as well, but like, you can't hate the game if you like, if you want to play it, right? So people on Reels or on TikTok and they want to do all this trendy stuff. Dog, if you want to fit in and blow up and go viral and keep present, you got to be trendy. You got to use the same audio. You got to play the game.
It's like this saying, don't hate the player.
Don't hate the game. Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's like, it's just part of it. And for me, it's like, I don't want to play that game. So if I'm releasing, anytime I release Reels, it's always like custom audio. It's probably like a sick rap or hip hop track that's obviously not trendy. And it's just stuff that I just do it because I love it. I'm like, this is a dope video or this is a dope reel. It's me. And because I find myself with like, dude, we're so numb to see all this content constantly, right? And there's so many incredibly talented people out there, right? But you're skipping through it because you're annoyed by the same audio and song that everyone uses. So in reality, though your content might be getting pushed, I'm not even watching it because I can't stand to hear it. Right. So it's like, wow, the thing that got you into this like viral mode is now getting you out of it just as quick. Cause I've already heard that a million times and it's just not inspiring to me. So it's a catch-22. Like I said, man, you can't hate the player, hate the game. And if you don't want to play the game, don't complain about the game. Don't complain about making reels and videos and keeping up. If you don't want to play it, just don't. I don't, because I create for myself and stuff I think is really dope. And that's caused me to not go viral. And I'm totally fine with that because I'm kind of staying true to myself and I just appreciate that. But I can't complain if I'm not growing because I'm just not in that zone. So, yeah.
But yeah. I think it's a good lesson of just knowing who you are, right? If YouTube and Instagram is where you're going to shine and where your work shines, it probably wouldn't work on TikTok. So it'd just be a waste of time. And I think that's because I think your audience, if you all of a sudden started doing dances and stuff, they'd be like, this isn't the guy. This isn't why I followed him.
100%. Yeah. And part of me, man, I want to not care and just create like really funny stuff. And maybe I will at some point as like a fun outlet, but you have to understand, as an established brand, like you guys, like yourself, if there is an extension of you, it still has to have that foundation of like what that looks like. So you can't just have this absurd personality somewhere else and then not really congruent to the rest of your work. So to me, I can't have something so one-off that it's like, because if say you're like a really crazy person and you let that shine, people are like, have you seen this dude's TikTok? Like his work's really good, but I don't know if I want to work with this person. Yeah. Because if that's who's on set, like, I don't know if we can really have this person. That's why you have to be careful with stuff you share. And people are so quick to just share anything that's going viral or like politics. People just share whatever just because of this like shameful society we have. And it's like, this is a bit of a deeper subject, but when there's so many things that pop up and like disasters or bad news, I don't share that on I don't share anything on my page unless I am really passionate about it. And it's something that I want to share because I get to dictate and control what's being shared to my audience. I don't owe you anything, right? People are like, oh, you have a big influence. You need to be sharing and your opinion. It's like, no, I don't. I'm my own brand. I get to tell you, if you come to my page, you get to see beautiful images and stories and stuff that I create. I'm my own boss. I get to make those rules. I don't owe it to you to share anything or my opinion whatsoever. And so I don't involve like politics or like really gnarly stuff that's going on unless I'm passionate about it, because once you open that floodgate, obviously you can say everything wrong. There is no right when you start sharing big topics and stuff. Like everyone's going to talk about something. So I try to keep it for my own sanity and my own mental health, I just, Shortstache is a brand, dude. It's not some free speech like forum. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
No,
I know we went off on a tangent, but I was just like, it's something I think about.
It's funny. We had a huge talk in the office the other day, and we have 50 employees now. There's causes for everything, right? Like, and so, I got up and I told the team, I'm Cuban. My mom I use the example of she, once a year goes down to Miami, and she's very vocal about the people oppressed to Cuba. And I go to the team and I asked them a question. I said, is it appropriate because I'm the founder, for us to champion this cause? And my answer, even though me personally, I'm with my mom, I want the Cuban people to have their freedom, and I don't think it's right. That's not the mission of Cuts. The mission of Cuts is to inspire those to compete and win in the sport of business. So for us, anything we support, it's got to be in that lane.
Sure.
Easy, especially in 2020 and 2021. It was so easy to be like, oh, this cause is popular, let's support it in this way. Or this type of marketing is trendy, let's do that.
Yeah.
But what I think you're seeing in 22 now is kind of a response to that, where brands are saying, look, let's just stick to our mission and vision and do that world class and stay focused. All this other stuff, one, I think it truly does hurt your bottom line because you get distracted. And two, it's just not who you are. So you don't need to do it. And your audience doesn't want that.
Sure.
And what you said, I mean, I'm 100% with you on that. And, it's really funny that you said that, because we just had a huge meeting with the team, and it was funny. I could really see light bulbs click when I did it, because it wasn't that I'm against any cause.
100%.
It's not what we're here to do every day. So when you said that, it's like music to my ears. I think it's something more people need to talk about, because it's really high. Like Kobe Bryant wasn't worried about, he wasn't one of those guys like super, super dressed. He came ready to work and score as many points in the basketball game as he needed to. And that was his focus. He didn't focus on all this other stuff. I think too many people get distracted.
Yeah, I agree.
But I could go on that for,
yeah.
I could keep rocking with that. A lot of, NFTs have been hot. Now they're cold. Let me talk a little bit about your NFT project that you launched in 21 and give us an update.
Sure. So that space right now, I'm talking to some close buddies of mine with Meta Relics and stuff like that, as they're very heavy
Mark
in the space. Yeah, Mark and Jeff. So I'm going to be working with them here soon. And, they're such knowledgeable guys and incredible entrepreneurs in that space. And I trust them more than anyone. And so we have some big plans, which I'm stoked on. But for me, man, the NFT space is really interesting. One, it's very complicated. It's hard to understand. So you have to really take the time to dive into it yourself. And also everyone's opinions on it, or like ways to go about it, or why they're in it, is all over the place, right? It's so scattered. Some people are using it as like gambling stocks tools. Some people are investing in artists. Some people just don't care. They just want to move money. It's crazy. So when I first released that NFT, a buddy of mine, Dylan Hutchins, so him and two other guys own this company called Stilo Creative. Okay. And they're out of Utah, but they moved here to California. And the most incredible 3D artists I know. Now, Dylan, we've gotten really close over the last couple of years, and he was like, dude, we should make an NFT. He's an animation artist. And I was like, that sounds sick. Okay, how do I play a part in that? Like, you should make an NFT. Like, I don't know how I play into that. So he was like, no, man, let's make it as a collaborative thing. So I got an invite from a buddy on Foundation at the time, which apparently was a really hard thing to do. I don't know how it is now, but he was like, let's make a really thoughtful one-of-one that's like both of our lives intertwined. I was like, yeah, I'm down. I said, the thing is though, Dylan, is I don't have like a audience that, one, no one knows who I am in this NFT space. Two, if you're like, we just put it up as one Ether. And at the time, I think that was like $2,500, and I'm like, also, I wouldn't buy that. I don't know what I'm investing in. I have no idea what the space is. So anyway, we're like, whatever, it'd just be cool to make one, get it out there. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it's going to go in like a museum, like whatever that looks like. So we sat down and thought about it. And I was like, listen, dude, when I take photos, like we were on our way to Snooze to eat breakfast one morning. And I was like, dude, let's talk about this NFT. Like how can we really collaborate besides me having somewhat of an idea and then you just do all of it because you're the artist? He was like, no, let's do it. So started chatting. I said, dude, when I take photos, man, my job as a creative and my personality, I want people to transport themselves into that environment, right? Whether that's using depth, that's colors, that's storytelling, whatever that is, that's what's important to me. And I said, it'd be cool to have two different parallels where it's like, if I'm in the desert, that environment's in the ocean. If I'm in the ocean, that environment's in the desert. And so we came up with like this concept of flip flop and have this picture frame go in and out of these opposing environments. And so that was NFT. It truly is a one of one, and it did sell. This guy I met in Canada bought it because he's really big in NFTs, named Jacob. And he was like, holy shit, man. He was like, I need to, you have an NFT. And so he bought it, which is really cool. So anyway, that's kind of been my only experience with NFTs, but,
how do you know the iconic guys?
Yeah. So
Mark is a good buddy of mine. He's got high energy, that guy. He's probably listening. He's going to listen to these, and he's going to do a podcast soon too.
Yeah, these guys are really genuine. I actually got to meet them for the first time a couple of weeks ago in LA. We've talked on the phone a ton, and every time I chat with them, man, like they're super stoked to work on stuff. And I'm very humbled to just even play a part in that. And I met them. Mark reached out to me, man. I just didn't even know anything about Iconic.
Your content for Iconic?
Yeah, just so they had a print shop going there for a while. And I think they still do prints. But when they approached me about signing as an artist, I said, yeah, man, I'm game. I said, my work though is not so much like print material. Mine's such like an intimate thing for me in these moments that I capture. It's not like I have one thing that I've shot in my house. Okay. Because everything else I've bought from other artists that I love because it's a piece in your house. My work, I don't feel like translates like that. I just honest with myself. Like I don't have like very clean, minimalistic shots of stuff that like I would purchase and put in my house. So anyway, they were like, no, dude, I think there's an area for it, but it's slowly transformed into like, no, I think there's a big space for something like this and teaching and stuff in the NFT space. So I think that's kind of the next chapter with those guys. And it's funny because when I met Jeff and I are actually a lot of like and how we approach just community and why you do something in the first place. And yeah, it's interesting. So it'll be fun to really see what comes of it with those guys.
Yeah, that's great. I'm waiting and seeing with, and just listening, trying to learn from the NFT space. I think we've thought about a bunch of ideas of, what we want to do. Ours is going to be around membership and more exclusive membership with monthly items and things like that. That we're really excited for. And, we're toying with this subject of Steven's inner circle, where, people get to jump on a phone with me really around people wanting to start businesses and getting the opportunity to learn from our executive team, our director of ops, our wholesale manager, and just get the inner circle of cuts to help their potential endeavor. And I think that would be something I would be comfortable with, worth like 1 ETH and above or something. But like,
cool.
I want to make it so they feel like there's real value in buying it, not just to have something that just kind of is something cool. I want there to be a real utility that they can get behind.
100%.
So what's next for you? What do you think where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Oh man. Yeah. So I think about that all the time. I'm like, what comes next? I really like want to have a family someday. And like, I want to have this life, and I don't want to be traveling all the time to shoot. I want to build an empire for myself that allows me to step away and still have a lot of control on what's going on. And so Shortstache agency is something that's very much in the works, and what that looks like. It might be a production house, might be something bigger than that, but I want to go about it in the right way. And so that's been a real mental hurdle for me in the last year, just understanding how exactly I want that to look. And then again, also like this podcast that I'll be launching soon, it's the Stash Cast. And it's all about like fulfillment and vulnerable conversations, like stuff we're having about, people are too scared to mention or like have an opinion on, right? It's just having these conversations. And I feel like I've had to really do a lot of self, growth in the last year of just understanding like what makes me happy. Like, is it still the creative field? Is it interacting with people? Is it building stories with teams? Like, what does that look like? And so I started new things, like new hobbies, golf. I've really gotten into. So that's been really fun because it's something that's really tough and you have to really practice all the time. So that's been really good for me. I started picking up, I want to be like kind of a part-time colorist for films. So diving into more DaVinci Resolve and just understanding how to break down certain elements of whatever cam footage that I'm having and building out a variety of styles for people that want their films to look like this or look like that. So that's been a really fun, humbling experience doing that as well. So I'm trying to find little things that help spark that new inspiration in me. And so I do think I want to stay in the creative field, but it could be this NFT space. It could be more along the lines of like owning a production agency and tackling big projects and telling meaningful stories that like are heavy on my heart. I still think photography will be somewhere in there. It could be getting more into the design. I just crave like simplicity and understanding that like there's so much you could do in your life. And I just want to be happy with whatever I'm doing. And if that's a lot less, awesome. If that's a lot more, that's great as well. But, that's a tough question for me at the moment because I have so many mixed feelings of like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I want to know.
I'm excited for that podcast. I think about happiness all the time. And I think that's a tough thing to actually, and this is my take. I'm curious on yours is
sure.
It's a tough thing to necessarily grab because it can always change. Like human nature, a lot of times you ask someone that's not happy and they don't know what makes them happy, or when they're happy, is that really what makes them happy? So for me, like I've always said is progress, like is the thing that, and fulfillment is what makes me happy. And then you kind of break those down to kind of find joy in life. And for me, it's definitely surrounded family, faith, and progress of just moving forward. And that's what I've realized to be happy. It's not necessarily buying things or traveling. And even though I do like to do those things, that isn't necessarily what gives me joy and happiness. And I think for me, more than anything is just, am I seeing progress in my life? Am I becoming a better, I just recently got engaged. Am I going to be a better husband? And am I going to be a better dad? Am I, is Cuts growing? It's funny. The dream was always to get to this point in Cuts. And now that we're here, I'm like, oh, let's go take this to 1 billion.
Sure.
Nike got there. There's Aritzia. There's these brands that we've had similar growth rates. So like, we're not done yet. We're just getting started. And so that progress of Cuts is like the thing I'm so grateful for that I have a vehicle something that I can work hard in. And so I oftentimes tell people, if they're looking for happiness, find something that you can truly grow in and have progress in. And that's what you'll drive your joy and happiness. What's your take on all of that?
Man, I completely agree. I feel like it's just the fundamentals of your life. It's the people you're with, the experiences that you want to have. And it's just those core values. Like I said, I want to have a family, have that stability, enjoy those like small moments, the big moments, all of that, because I've been kind of solo dolo for so long that, true happiness, I feel like, as they've all said, it's in its truest form is when it's shared with someone. And so I'm not missing the present time now. I'm just looking forward to those times that I do have with, my partner and those things. So, cause I'm 32 and I feel like I've done so much in the last, decade of my life. And it's really fun to see these chapters close and open into new ones. And I'm excited for the next one. And I feel like I'm really growing into myself as a human and understanding what that fulfillment and that happiness does look like. It's taken all the travel away, taking all this stuff away. And I feel like COVID really did that for me. And a lot of people is, despite obviously all the horribleness of that and the downsides of COVID, the rich values that were brought to me is just like quality time. What makes you happy? What makes you tick? Are you reading enough books? Are you understanding like all these distractions in the world? Are they pulling you or are they pushing you in a good or bad direction? And so That's something I've been trying to focus on, is just having that question with myself of like, does this make me a better person? Am I making people around me a better person? And I feel like just interacting with humans in general and just conversing and talking, whether that's teaching or like podcasts like this, really make me happy. So it's like, okay, how do I position myself to do this for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Because human to human interaction is what makes me tick. Like if you ask my buddies, I call them all the time. I leave voice notes. When they DM me on Instagram, I leave voice notes because I want to hear your voice, and I want to see what's going on, what your mood is. And you can just say so much more through audio than, texting. There's just zero context. So anyway, I think it has something to do with people. And I know that's vague, but I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm a big FaceTimer. I FaceTime my mom and dad, my friends, and or voice message. I like to voice message, even though I know some people hate that. They're like, "Oh, now I got to listen to you." But I always think a text message like it leaves too much for interpretation. Like hi could mean, hi in a million different ways.
Yep.
When I met my fiance, Leslie, that was one of the big things I realized, that she was different because she liked jumping on the phone call too. Like right away, she called me and we were talking, and it was, I remember being like a huge sigh of relief. I was like, finally, I don't have to deal with this like unread text bullshit and all this stuff, and understanding like, oh, should I text? Should I not text? I used to hate that when I was single. So when I finally didn't have to do that, I was like, all right, this girl's special. So I love that. I'm going to get your number. I'm going to FaceTime you random times. Oh
yeah, do it, man.
See what Garrett's up to.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, it's great, man. I love that. And I think that's when you get the most out of somebody. It's like, oh yeah, they're in a great mood. That energy transfers, or dude, that's just what someone needs to perk them back up. It's like, oh, I feel better now that I talked to my buddy or my parents or whatever that looks like. So I'm with you on that.
Awesome. So we're getting close to an hour here. I like to always end it with a couple rapid fire questions, 1 sentence, 1 word answers.
Cool.
First one is, most important piece, if you were stuck on an island, what is the most important camera gear that you that you need to be successful?
Oh, let's see. So successful as in,
or that you can't live without.
Yeah. I mean, obviously a body and then a lens, and then I'm set. I mean, honestly, if you couldn't even look back at your images, if it was just something that allowed you to capture that vision, it'd probably just be a 50 millimeter lens and whatever body I had. Like, I just think just understanding like certain focal lengths allow your mind to open up and just see the world differently. So yeah, I mean, honestly, whatever I got stuck with is just like awesome. I'll just get creative with this. Yeah.
What's your, where does the biggest piece of like inspiration come from? So like, is there like, for me, I've always loved The Lion King. I love the plot line. Is there something that maybe someone maybe from your childhood, or some piece of inspiration that you've really just like helped develop you?
Man, I got to say, just the way I was raised from my dad and like my mom, my stepmom, and it just those core values and like how you treat people and how you love on people and forgiveness and grace and just be generous to those that deserve it. You just having that humility about yourself is something I can only hope that I pass on to my kids. And I think I mean, I'm just so thankful for the way I was raised in this, especially in this day and age. And I think that inspires me more than anything, knowing that like I was set up for success and it's up to me to carry that on.
I love it. Yeah. Grace is huge.
100%, man.
Especially in today's world, everyone's trying to cancel you and tear you down.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just need a little grace and a second chance.
Yeah, man. Then we all need each other, man. No one's perfect, and life is already hard enough. It's like we need each other. So help somebody out, love on them, send them a message. Communication is key. And I just think that that's what inspires me the most, and then does translate into my art. It's just like communication. Words of affirmation, boost somebody up, man. Root everybody on. People are winning. Root for your enemies to win. Don't have enemies. I think it's just so important, dude. You got to pass that good energy on. It'll come back to you.
Love it. Shameless plug. What's your favorite cuts item?
Oh man. The black tees. I mean, I got a long sleeve one on right now. but it's just my favorite. The tees fit me so well. Just like my body type, I have like an athletic build, and like the material, the stretching, and then of course, like they don't. One pet peeve of mine that's always been this way since I was a kid is shirts that the collars stretch out.
Oh, I hate that.
God, that drives me nuts. And it just gives me so much anxiety. I don't know why, but the fact that these collars don't stretch out and like loosen over time is my favorite. I don't know why. That's just a weird tick I have. So yeah, that's my favorite.
When I was designing the business, I would go to different brands, and I always thought the biggest opportunity in fashion is like the hardest things to pinpoint, and where like the big companies are just too big to like really listen and care. And it was the two big things were the collar is it going to bake a neck? Like I had to solve that. And the second thing, so before us, there wasn't that thin collar that wasn't rapidly done. Now you see it a lot, but because we've, shipped over several million of them now. And so other brands started to take notice. And the second is a truly wrinkle-free shirt that you can pack, and like Pika Pro, if your body temperature heats up, even if it is wrinkled, it'll eventually snap. And that did take us, 2 years to truly get where it's not too hot and making it enough breathable where it became special. So I think the lesson there is, it's not always like the grain, it's the details that can be the biggest can lead to the biggest opportunity.
100%. Yeah. That was one thing I wanted to mention as well. Yeah. It's not wrinkling. It's great. I guess when you pointed that out, I'm like, yeah, it's very true. Cause that drives me nuts too. As a kid, I'd always want my stuff ironed and like looking sharp for school. And I feel like if I was showing up somewhere where my shorts aren't ironed or like my shirt, I just looks like a slob. There's just no way around it. And that's a pet peeve of mine, is like, look sharp, feel sharp. That's how you stand out. Like, it didn't matter if you had cool clothes or not, just don't have them wrinkled. Just look sharp. That's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, my man, Garrett, I appreciate you jumping on, and that wraps episode 6. I might've got the episode wrong. I think we're in we recorded like 3. So
nice.
Or episode 10, Liam's looking at me, episode 10. So
nice.
I lose track, but Garrett, much appreciated, brother.
Man, thank you guys so much for having me on. I appreciate the fulfilling conversation, and it inspires me to just think differently, and good questions that you asked. And I appreciate that.